The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls is proud to partner with Central Insurance Companies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian-American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Town of Queensbury Town Board meeting. It is October 4th, 2021. The time is 7:02 p.m. Would you please all rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please? There's a flag in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Well, we have 4 items for the Queensbury Board of Health. If there's a motion to move into the Queensbury Board of Health. So moved. All right, moved by Councilperson. Which one was it first? I'll second. Ferone, seconded by Councilperson Freer. All those in favor of moving into the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? It appears unanimous. We're now on the Queensbury Board of Health. The first item, please, Caroline.
This is a public hearing to consider a sewage disposal variance application of Vincent O'Neill.
All right, so Vincent O'Neill, who lives at 85 Pilot Knob Road, would like to install a force main 2 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback on property located on 85 Pilot Knob Road in the town of Queensbury. Tax map numbers 227.18-1-13 and 227.18-1-16. And we have the applicant and the applicant's agents before us tonight. Would you please introduce yourself for the sake of the record?
Yes, thank you, John. Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, here with Vince O'Neill, representing Vince on this application for a wastewater variance to the Board of Health. A little background on this property. 85 Pilot Knob Road is the residence that Vince and his wife Annie owned. They've owned for 7 years or so. And at that time, actually, when they first purchased it, they installed holding tank system to serve that residence on the property that they owned associated with 85 Pilot Knob Road. Subsequent to that, they were able to purchase an adjacent property, an acre, 1.4 acres, which is not lakefront, but is contiguous to the property of 85. And we went through a process with the zoning board to take a little of that land from the lot at 91 Pilot Road and add it to 85. That now is part of 85 Pilot Road. It provides the area necessary and available for a wastewater system, an on-site wastewater system. So of those holding tanks that are currently in place, 3 1,500-gallon tanks, we'll keep the first 2 as conventional septic tanks and turn the third one into a pump tank, which will now pump via force main up to that land that we annexed onto 85. There is a relatively narrow strip, 10 feet wide actually, that heads eastward to make the connection with the new area plan. And we've shown on the plan sort of a meandering force main because there's some existing vegetation that we would work around where we could and enable that force main to make its way up to the field area. So that's what we would propose, and because it's only 10 feet wide, and if we were straight down the middle, it would be a 5-foot setback to each property line. Here, I'm just envisioning that we would have to be as close as 2 feet. So that's what the request is, for a 2-foot setback variance for the force main.
And the new system, the field, is going to be 325 feet from the lake because of the effort to buy this contiguous piece of property. And on top of that, you're putting an Elgin system in.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, it'll be a much better situation for the O'Neills to have that land available to have the system, an on-site system. So then they won't be subject to the pump outs and whatnot that they've accepted and lived with for 7 years. This is have to be a better situation.
Okay, and you're only asking for that one variance.
Correct.
All right, before I open the public hearing, are there any town board members that have any questions?
So the system is not going to be a joint. It's going to be strictly for 85.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, we did testing on the remaining parts of the land of that contiguous lot, so we know that there's area there for a system when and if that gets developed.
Dennis, my questions are just point of information. Because of the length of the line, that pump has to be probably oversized to be able to pump that length.
That comes into play. The longer the line, the more friction loss there is in the force main, but it's not significant. I mean, it's whatever it's going to be, 250 feet roughly. I didn't even scale it, but we did calculations the size of pump, so it's not anything extraordinary.
And when there are systems that are set up like this, not specifically this one, because I know we've had others, what happens if the pump fails?
Nothing pumps.
No, but how do you come to know that the pump failed?
There's an alarm system.
Oh, there is. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the design of the pump system will be a duplex pump that alternates each cycle, so you have some redundancy.
Okay.
Not all pump systems are duplex. Some are simply simplex, one pump.
Right.
But generally, for the houses around the lake, it seems like everybody opts for the duplex pump system.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I will open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this application for sanitary sewage disposal variance for Vincent O'Neill at 85 Pilot Knob Road tonight? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments or thoughts? How about a motion to approve?
I just have that one correspondence that was received
Yes.
from Mr. Kabricki.
Yes. Okay, thank
And I
you.
believe I emailed that to all to you.
And I believe we've all seen that.
Okay.
So
That's it.
a
That's all.
matter. Okay. Introduced by Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson Freer. A roll call vote on this, please.
Councilpersons Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Perone?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes. And thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Councilperson McNulty is on vacation. Oh, which reminds me of being on vacation.
You guys want any of these?
I wanted to thank Tony, Councilperson Medevere, for presiding over the town board meeting last Monday. Thank you very much. It's appreciated.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, the next item. Would you please introduce 1.2 to the public, Caroline?
This is a public hearing to consider a sewage disposal variance application of John and Margaret Marquette.
Okay,
I'm sorry?
John and Margaret Marquette. They have a residence at 390 Cleverdale Road. They are asking for 9 variances. And they are as follows. 1, the absorption bed to be 50 foot from Lake George in lieu of the required 100-foot setback. The second variance, absorption bed to be 1 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. The third variance, absorption bed to be 1 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Fourth variance, force main to be 1 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Fifth variance, absorption bed to be 4 foot from the building foundation in lieu of the required 20-foot setback. Sixth variance, reactor tank to be 1 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Seventh variance, reactor tank to be 1 foot from the building in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Eighth variance, septic tank to be 1 foot from the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. And the ninth variance, septic tank to be 1 foot from the building in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Well, please, the applicant and the applicant's agents, please introduce yourselves for the record.
Thank you again. John, I'm Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, here with John Margaret to discuss a request for wastewater system variances for a proposed system at 390 Cleverdale Road. The lot in question is a small parcel. Those of you who went to the site visit, you understand any of the properties at that tip of Cleverdale, none of them can meet any kind of 100-foot setback or a field area, this lot included. The system that serves this property now is on the lake side of the house, so therefore it's in the range of 30 feet or so from the lake, a tank, and some sort of dispersal. The owners are interested in proposing a new design, a new system, in the event that they transfer within the family. That's still subject to the transfer law. They have a younger generation that may take over the property. So we've proposed something that does require by number a lot of variances. 6 of them are associated with the location of tanks, which are located in a parking area on the roadside of the house. If you've been there, again, it's narrow, and but the tanks can be placed under paved area. You just need to be heavy-duty tanks. The technology proposed is an ETU, an enhanced treatment unit. Happens to be a PureSys SBR, which is another one of the technologies that provides enhanced treatment. It actually happens to be the same technology that I've used and installed at my own family property in Assembly Point. It involves a conventional septic tank and then what's referred to as a reactor tank. That's where the additional treatment takes place. And then that's pumped to a pressurized stone bed area, which is in the northwest corner of the property. Currently an area that had been, there was a boat park there, if you can't recently. That would be eliminated, the use of that. There could still be some sort of storage there, but not parking on top of that. And again, that would be a time dose, well, it's sequential batch reactor, so it is automatically a time dose system to a pressurized bed in that area. The issue here, in my mind, the primary issue is the fact that the setback is 50 feet from the lake. And that's let's say, as close to the lake as I've proposed in the past. A property on Rockhurst, just down the road, Weaver's property, Harrison, if you know that happens to be in the same situation where we've got a 50-foot setback to the lake when we've used an enhanced treatment system. So the other setbacks are, again, related to separation from the dwelling to the tanks, separation from the property line to the tanks. Those, I think, are of lesser concern for me from an engineering standpoint. I think the field is the important issue here.
Well, the other is that putting this arrangement there, you're going to lose parking. And parking is a premium, especially here. I mean, we got that gate before you go into the old Ripley Point places, Lexi's and all.
I mean, the question, I assume, I guess I should say, the discussion I assume that was had is, there was discussion about holding tanks and that was not acceptable? Instead of this system?
I think John can speak to that as we move forward here, but it's not the preference, certainly, of the owner to have a system like that.
Is it a seasonal residence or all year round?
It's currently seasonal. I prefer to use it a lot more. Have school out here.
Dennis, can you discuss the ETS technology compared to the Fuji and Clara systems? Is it comparable?
Yes, certainly.
And then part of that is a UV front end. Is that
Not
appropriate?
it could be in this case. It's not part of it. It's a comparable technology because it's all under the certification of what's referred to as NSF 40 guidelines, which is the National Sanitary Foundation independent third-party testing organization that does studies of the technology to show that they meet the standards, in this case, NSF 40, and that involves 90% reduction of BOD, 90% reduction of total suspended solids, which are two key parameters in terms of wastewater strength.
How about phosphorus?
Not a standard that is tested or worked to.
But this system doesn't deal with it at all. Is that true? I mean, I'm asking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Let's say not any differently than any other system. There's always a certain amount of treatment through the septic tank. There's a certain amount of treatment through the soil dispersal, but there's not a specific, and I think you'll find that the technology is not available at this time really on a small scale, on a residential scale, to do any significant phosphorus reduction. Now, you'll You might get some manufacturers or vendors that claim certain things, but I think that's the general consensus.
Yeah, it's my understanding that there's at least one vendor who's claiming that they are able to deal with phosphorus more aggressively than the competitors. But yeah, it's fast moving, and I'm glad to see it's moving because there's plenty of room for improvement out there.
Dennis, you referred to another property that was up the road that had been approved with a 50-foot.
On Rockhurst,
Okay, all right. You know when that was?
it's like 2009 or
Okay.
10. We did a series actually of 3 different systems within 4 properties. They're 88, 92, 98, Rockhurst Road, and Weavers happened to be one of them, and that had, we used PureFlow, the peat fiber system in each one of those cases. We happened to go basically to the same area where the existing field was, but now we had that enhanced treatment prior to that dispersal. So, and that was one that the board at the time recognized the value of that, I guess, and approved that.
Can I ask you board a question?
No,
We're gonna have.
no, there'll be an appropriate time.
There'll be a point where you could speak.
I'm the person that's outside, and I was just curious.
You'll get a chance.
There was a property across the street from you that we would not approve, that was very similar.
Correct. Yeah, right across the street. And that was brought before the board. I thought that the board was leaning toward an approval, but at the time of the meeting and the public hearing, there were comments from neighbors who I think created a situation where the board felt compelled to table that. That got tabled, and nothing has changed with that since. No improvements to that system.
And the reason I had asked about when those other systems were approved is that you're talking now 11, maybe 12 years ago. We've had these issues with, blooms in the lake and that kind of thing. I think there's more focus on what's going on with the lake now. So maybe now they would be more concerned with this, request for the variance of only being 50 feet from Lake George.
So you have the absorption bed at 330 square feet, that's designed for a 3-bedroom?
3-bedroom system, correct.
Okay. The holding tank for a 5,000 square foot lot would seem to be a more satisfactory solution to the wastewater system and dealing with it at this lot. And at the same time, if it was highway rated, it would still give you the parking space that you dearly need up there. In any event, is there anything else you wish to comment on?
Well, my thinking is that if you have a 330 gallon a day flow rate, if you do the arithmetic and you say 7 days, in 2 weeks you got 30,000 pounds worth of water, which is basically a truck. The truck probably goes down to Glens Falls. That's where my guy comes from. It's 10 miles up, 10 miles down, about. He's probably getting 5 miles a gallon on that because of the terrain. You got 80 gallons of diesel fuel a year because going into the atmosphere. I don't know how many of these holding tanks are out there or how many are going to be required in the future. I think that at this point we should be looking at an on-site disposal system because this is not without cost to have a holding tank and carting the material away on a consistent basis.
Well, you're not.
So I'm hoping that you won't let the perceived perfect be the enemy of the good.
we generally, with these small lots, which were originally designed to be just camps and have been winterized, and now they're into regular year-round lodging, and that's the norm now. They aren't the weekend camps that you visited 3 times a week or 3 times a year. These are people who are living in them full time. And the trucks going up there are regular because a lot more of these holding tanks are becoming the appropriate style, especially for lots that are constrained, such as yours. But in any event, let's see what the public has to say. And if you will, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this resolution from John and Margaret for sanitary sewage disposal variances? And there's 9 of them, one being 50 foot from the lake in lieu of the 100-foot requirement. So any member of the public, yes, sir.
Well, when you mentioned parking, I had
You have
Sir,
to come up and identify
you have to
yourself.
come up first, identify yourself. This is all going to be on the record. Thank you.
I'm Paul Versessi, the lot 390 Cloudale, right across the street, and the lot across is the one that borders on John Markets. However, from where our residency is in the big house, when he rents in July and August, 4 or 5 cars park, and they park diagonally. And then the Gottliebs have to park there, it's very good against their fence, and then they park along the road. But when his guests come and we go to leave, we have to go in and get them to move their trucks or cars or whatever they have there, or otherwise the Yukon or my Cadillac can't go through. The same with Barbara on the Point or the Lexi sometimes. I don't think he could get out with his truck. So when you put up the point, that wasn't what I was going to originally ask. When you put up the point about one of those things about what he's putting down, they're going to do away with the boat or whatever, where they're going to park the car. Well, when he gets guests during July and August, how do people park when he rents the house?
Well, this system that's proposed will make the situation worse.
Yeah, it will make the parking twice as bad. May I read what I wrote down?
Sure.
Okay. I've owned the Ashley House and the Cloudale Road for about 50 years. After retiring 15 years ago, I spent almost all my life here. My daughter and grandchildren spend much of their time here. In fact, during the COVID-19, they lived in a house for the whole period of the COVID-19. We all drink the lake water. My belief is that you never put anything into the lake since we drink the water. We want our lake to be clean, pure, and safe. Now, a holding tank solves that problem. A lot of houses put those septic holding tanks, and then they just pump them out. And it doesn't put any liquid from the absorption fields into the lake. Chemicals going into the lake from absorption fields with these new systems are only as good as the amount of absorption if you get an overabundance use of the so-called new types of septic systems. In fact, our other neighbor, the Gottliebs, was going to put one in like that. And I think it was voted down because they had no place for the water to seep out. So what happens is, on our property like that, and by the way, my property will have 1 foot away from my property across away from my house on a lot that's on where everybody plays, we do things and stuff, and plant food, trees, tomatoes. The absorption field will be 1 foot away from that property line, which to me feels very unsafe. Now, chemicals going into the lake from these absorption fields supposedly are rigidly clean. The applicant is asking for the 1 foot variance, but that means some of those chemicals are going to go onto my property. Would you not think that 1 foot away and on that absorption spot, some will seep onto my property? So I'm totally against that, not counting what might seep down into the lake. The big problem is when all the systems, this is why I think the Gottliebs got refused. When all these, they had a lot of people coming to their house. When they come and they overdo this, the chemicals that treat the water, and it supposedly evaporates, and a certain amount evaporates, the water coming, or I should say the liquid coming out to the lake, which probably would be the same with this, is supposed to be okay because it's treated, or whatever you're going to call it. But how do we know on the system has so many projections, but how do we know the chemicals that you put in this system, when it goes into the lake eventually, how will that affect the ecological nature of the lake? I drink the water. A lot of neighbors drink the water, okay? It's not fair to think, how would you say, that nobody can say, well, that's going to be real safe in 10, 15 years. Even for the ecological life of fish and everything else. You could have a dead lake in 20 years. But my concern, since so many people drink the water, that the easiest way out, especially in small lots like that can't possibly have an absorption field that handles that, is a holding tank. Why experiment with an approach when nobody can predict what these chemicals will do to the lake? The effect of the people drinking this water, there's nobody that can tell you that it's going to, be perfectly safe. It's not going to cause problems. The type of system that I've been reading about, there's like 10,000 of them in Japan. So, but of course we know Japan's the cleanest country going. No pollution, no nothing. So how could you verify and use that? I don't know if he did that. As these new type of systems are better for the lake rather than septics that were in, like mine has been in, I have a lot of property, so I never have a problem. They come every year and they put tests in the bathrooms and stuff to see if it goes into the lake, and it's fine. I mean, mine works. I get it pumped out, and I don't have, I have sediment tank and stuff, and we pump it out regularly. And since I feel that I don't care who says that, even if some goes in the lake, it's safe, I wouldn't want it in there if I'm drinking the water. And I asked this question, I think, when I talk about the same thing on the Gottliebs. Would any one of you raise your hand and say, yeah, I'll drink that water? I don't think so. I mean, it's a simple thing. Okay. Now, what brings us to a difference about this gentleman, I'm very friendly with John. He probably won't talk to me after this. The property that he's talking about is rental. He never lives there. He comes up to fix, clean, get ready for the next rental in June, July, August. That I can ask him, when was the last time you and Peggy come up and stayed a couple of weeks?
Probably June. We were over here for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
You have to direct it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So anyway, the fact that he's not a year-round rental, he does mostly in June, July, and August. A tank, like he's projecting all this pollution and the amount of money it costs him to keep pumping, there's nobody using the house 90% of the time other than some, unless he comes up for a week or two. Okay, he's not a year-round people. So I'm very upset about changing the requirement of the 10-foot rule. And same with 350 feet from the lake. He's right on top of the lake. And then you brought up the point about the parking. Okay, so if he puts in this newer system that you can't park cars there, where's his guests going to come the whole month of July and August? I could see a serious problem. And I'm a purist, maybe, but I drink the lake water, okay? And we do have a little filter and stuff that filters it that we put in like 20 years ago because we thought the lake was getting the water. We tested the Davisons 2 doors down from us, does testing all the time because when he was right next door to the Gottliebs, he was worried about the so many people there that the water would be coming out from the system they had, and he tested it regularly. And Carol Freihofer, when she was alive, would always test it. And then about 20 years ago, she says, the bacteria count is a little higher. So she put in a electronic purifier system. So I put that in. Okay, but I drink the water right from the tap. So I don't like new systems because nobody knows, consequently. It's like with electric cars. I mean, this is really definitely better. There's no noise, I rented one. I think that until the United States adopts and puts charging stations all over the highways, you could have a real serious problem in 10 years if you don't put enough of those pumps around to charge the cars. So everything has a great, beautiful idea about save the environment. Well, it's the same with this septic type system. Now, if, like the gentleman from Pilot Knob, he's got a couple of lots or something like that, you put one of those purifying systems there, it's fine. But the chances of something, if anybody on the board go to see that lot, they're like lined up real close. And you were right when you said there were really camps. So if they're abundantly used with a lot of people, there's no place for the sewage to go. It'll have to go down to the lake. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Versessi. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Come forward and identify yourself for the record and then share your thoughts with us.
Okay. I'm Susan Morris, and I live at 371 Cloverdale Road. And I'm just baffled by the town of Queensbury, and everybody wants to protect the lake and keep it clean and put in all these rules. 9 exceptions. 7 of them are within 10% of what's allowed, and it's crazy. This is a property that's screaming for a holding tank. He doesn't really want it because you have to pump it out or whatever. However, the rest of us love the lake. We drink the water, and it's the gem of our area, and I can't imagine why you would ever accept any of these.
We haven't yet.
I know. Well,
And would you repeat your name for me, please?
Susan Morris.
Susan Morris. All right. Anything else, Mrs.
I
Morris?
think that's it. I mean, I just read this and
Well, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Please identify yourself for the record and then share your thoughts with us.
I'm Jason Southwood. I live at 388 Cloverdale.
I'm sorry, what is the name?
Jason Southwood, 388 Cloverdale. I'm the neighbor right next door to John to the south.
Okay.
There's a lot of things I heard here today, but I'm in 100% agreement with John's application. And I like Paul. I get along with Paul. Couple of the things, if he's drinking the lake water and he thinks this is going to make a bit of difference, so you might as well get rid of every boat on Lake George or everybody swimming in Lake George, because the amount of that pollution that goes into the lake versus what these systems put into the lake it's massive compared to what these new systems put in. To your point where they said 10 years ago they had the Weaver system put in on rockers. Yeah, it was 10 years ago, and maybe then your guys' rules weren't as stringent, but also the technology has gotten a lot better in the last 10 or 12 years, so it might balance out. And I think it's, as far as the parking issue goes, where that boat is, no one parks a car now anyway. No one has ever parked a car there. So that boat being removed where that system is going, parking will not be affected at all. There was no car parking there in the last 12 years, so that I lived there. So I don't think that's a real issue. On the other hand, I think it's also very easy for people with massive amounts of property with no skin in the game to go, nah, holding tanks are the way to go. If you don't ever have to have a holding tank and you got plenty of property, God bless you. But from somebody who has 4 holding tanks and a family of 4 or 5 that live there year round, it's $650 every month to get those tanks pumped out. Now you can go, well, holding tanks, we know where it's going. You don't know where it's going. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if my holding tanks fail and they seep into the ground, who would ever know? My alarms are never going to go off. My alarms only go off when it's full, not when it's empty. So if those tanks fail, who would ever know? It would be months, maybe a year before I would ever know those tanks are empty. They come to empty them. Yeah, the trucks make a big racket. There's not a lot of parking down there, as you guys saw, and a lot of room for those trucks. They got to back up all the way down the street. Do those trucks always get every bit of it in the truck? Nope. I can tell you from personal experience, we've had hose problems. It goes in my driveway. It stinks there for 2 weeks. It stinks in the entire house after they pump it out for at least a couple of days. You got to open all the windows to air it out. So the holding tanks sound great if you don't have any skin in the game, but when you really got to pump those things out, it's a nightmare. And I think it forces people to do other things. You got people with more outdoor showers now, especially in the summertime, because they don't want to put it into their tank. So when they're taking their outdoor shower with their hose or their spigot up there, where's that all going? Right on the ground into the lake. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. I think these systems now, a lot of these companies claim you can drink the water when it comes out the other end. I don't know if I would, but after it goes through the ground and filters all out, I mean, Paul said it. The Japanese are using it. There's nobody more strict on their water management than the Japanese. So if they're using it, I think it's probably pretty good for Lake George. So other than that, I think that was everything. But yeah, I'm in full agreement. I think he should be allowed to do it. The fact that he is only seasonal is even more of a benefit. There's not water going or affluent or anything going into that 365. It's only in the summertime, and it's basically him and his wife. So I don't think there's going to be a crazy amount. They're not opening up a laundromat or a car wash there. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm in full favor of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, the applicant and the applicant's agent want to return to the table. Any further thoughts on behalf of the town board? Anybody else? I don't see anybody else here, so I'll close the public hearing. Town board, thoughts?
You guys have anything to comment on?
I think that the technology that's proposed is certainly comparable to the type of technology that was referred to, the Japanese technology. That's the Clara system or Fuji Clean, which is the same basis. That was the system that was proposed for Godfrey across the street. That was the technology there. This happens to be a different technology, a different system, but it's comparable in terms of its qualifications as an NSF 40 certified system. I can't minimize the concern that the neighbor has, but what does trouble me a little bit, and this came up when we were here for Godfrey, why isn't every one of those concerned neighbors changing their system over to a holding tank? None of them meet the standards of setback to the lake. That's a side issue. So, but there's concern if somebody else is going to do it. And if that, and again, my concern here, or my limit of the variances offered is 50-foot setback to the lake. 100 foot is standard. That's what we've lived with for these years, and that's. But there's probably not an engineer that can really explain to you what the basis of that 100 feet is, except a certain amount of distance away from a lake. If you had an outbreak, you'd think you would notice something before anything got to the lake. Pathogenic organisms are cleansed within 2 feet of depth of soil. So now, what's the remaining issue?
One of the remaining issues, I don't see any test pit data.
No, we know what we did shallow shovel tests and whatnot. It was a question.
Well, I know it's all lake glacial moraine, and it's the same thing we see all the time, but it still would have been nice, Dennis.
Well, yeah, a formal design will include that information, the design for this permit to construct. So
Well, that's something we look for too. You know, depth of groundwater, modeling. You know, is it loamy?
Yeah, well, we had it across the road. We didn't do it here yet, so.
All right, well, you know, if the absorption field was 80 feet from the lake and you were asking for 20 feet of relief, and I think you're one of the best septic designers there is in this area, but the 50 foot, it's tough to get over.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, the other ones you could say are pretty minimal, but looked at them collectively, I don't know. I'm not inclined to support this as proposed tonight, but I'm only one town board member, and we'll see what the others say.
I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. I've always trusted Vincent's design, so I never questioned it. I am concerned if this is an Airbnb, it's not a 2-bedroom home, it's probably 3-bedroom, but how many people are there every weekend? So I don't know what to do with this one. I also am thinking in the back of my mind that kind of getting very close, well, I shouldn't say very close, but close to maybe a district out there. And how would this work into that?
Well, if we can get Rockhurst through, there are people in Cloverdale who would support us taking a look at something with their system. But again,
This is years off on this. So.
yeah,
I don't know what to do with this one. This is a tough one.
What do you think?
I'd like to hear George's view first.
Kick the can down the road, Harris.
Well,
To be honest, I'm leaning towards no. And, that's why I asked, how long ago were these other properties approved for something that was only 50 feet away? It was 10 or 12 years ago. I think a lot of things have changed upon the lake for those 10 or 12 years. I mean, at some point, and unfortunately it's this gentleman and this project, but at some point you have to say no. I mean, today it's 50, tomorrow will be 40, is the next day going to be 30? I mean, we have these rules in place for a reason, and I think you would approve, you would agree with that. So I'm just not comfortable with the 50 feet.
See, I could live with the 50 feet because I believe that this technology has improved in 10 years more than our worrying about the lakes issues in terms of the enhanced systems in 50 feet are much better than what he's got now. And certainly that the technology has, so the 50 feet doesn't scare me as much as just the whole mass, right? 9 variances and I agree with you. Holding tanks are not a free lunch in terms of the east part of the lake, in terms of pump outs and trying to do that. So,
But what about the system and its ability to handle if this is being used as a short-term rental? And we know that if it's a 3-bedroom, there could be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, who knows how many people there.
Well, for the last at least 20, and probably longer than that, we've limited rentals to 6 people.
Okay,
Because we don't want that kind of problem.
got it.
if it's a 3-bedroom, our short-term rental law says 2 per bedroom plus 2 max.
Right.
Yeah,
And we feel that the house is small enough where we don't want that many people in it, because the house just gets
Yeah, but
damaged.
see, what the problem is, you sell it, or we're looking down the road, and we understand your concern, but we have to think about,
The next owner.
Yeah.
And the other part of this is that we bought this years ago because we could never afford this unless we had some creative way to finance it. At this point, I'm old enough where I want to think about retiring. We were thinking about moving up here. I can't do it on the current septic tank. And probably moving up here on holding tanks is not economically viable.
but I'm not hearing the votes to approve. We don't have the votes to approve.
That's your business. I have to abide by that. But when we read the article, there were grants, we thought we'd try to get this problem solved.
Did you get awarded a grant?
I don't know.
They're only just now notifying applicants with, I know one that has been awarded, but I haven't heard on 15 others that I have helped applicants submit. So they are just starting to announce whether a property has been eligible for the grant.
Would you be willing to come back with a holding tank plan and we'll just not act on this?
Well, we'll discuss that. I don't know what it is. What would happen if you put the toilet on a holding tank and put all the other things on a gray water system and one that would go into the ground?
It's still 50 feet from the lake.
So right now there's a 1,000-gallon tank and a 750-gallon tank.
No, that's what's proposed.
That's what's proposed. Okay.
That's part of it.
What's there now?
I'm guessing that you have a septic and a dry well. Is that true, or do you know?
I don't know what's there.
Currently, there's some sort of initial tank and then some sort of dispersal, whether it's a seepage pit, cesspool type thing, we don't know that. There's something that's in the ground, obviously, that receives flow at that.
Which scares me, frankly. That should scare you guys too, right? And so he's proposing an enhanced system that does a lot of upfront stuff. I mean, I'll tell you that on the space station, they drink the water. Yep. But it creates some more. It creates other problems.
All right, well, there's clearly there's not enough votes. You need 3.
Can I add 2 questions? Is this seasonal, or is it year round?
Right now it's seasonal.
So you won't be up for the winter?
No, I'll come up and I'll probably ski it several times during the winter.
Town council?
Yeah, remember, boy, you have to be a little careful of that. Keep in mind, as one of you said, you're ruling on an application for a property that happens to be by a particular property owner, but you really shouldn't legally be making a decision on the basis of whether this particular property owner typically rents to only 6 people, voluntarily doesn't go to 8 people, may or may not come up and go skiing. That's all well and good, but remember, one of you said that's something that's very legally appropriate. Tomorrow, property could sell to somebody else who uses it more intensively than the current property owner. There's nothing we could, should, or would say to government. So just remember, you're ruling about the property, not about the particular individual who happens to be the applicant.
So town council, if we don't act on this tonight, we give the applicant an opportunity to discuss it with the applicant's agent and engineer to come back with another plan. Is that okay?
Sure. You're not obligated to act on it tonight. I'm not sure the applicant wants that opportunity, but that's up to you and the applicant.
I think, from what I hear, it's appropriate to table it for now, and if a decision is made, then whatever that next appropriate step, to withdraw it or to ask for a vote.
Okay.
But I think tabling is the route that you'll take for tonight.
Well, you haven't introduced it or seconded, so I don't think it's necessary to table, correct? So, I mean,
Take no action, perhaps.
just take no action. And there was an email from Mr. Gottlieb that you sent to me
Okay,
in support of the application.
yeah,
Which is like part of the record as well.
thank you. All right, well, thank you.
John, do you think it's time that we have somebody, CTNL or somebody, look at all these systems and somehow rewrite our code to reflect all of the enhancements that have been made in the last 10 years? I mean, we stick to this 100-foot, and yet not a single one of us up here really knows
I think
what
it's
that
a
means.
state requirement, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Your state health department. It's a standard that's been in
But,
effect.
you know, we're week after week after week voting on these variances, you know, and we trust you. We trust all of you because you're good at what you do. And yet we don't know. We just don't know what, you know, these enhanced units are doing. Can you drink the water? We don't know. Everybody laughs about it, but the fact is we just don't know. And everybody says the same thing. I say you can drink the water. I wouldn't, but so who would? And, you know, after a while, I mean, this is week after week after week. I've been doing this 14 years and it's the same thing. I think at some point we need somebody to look into this and figure out, you know, are we doing this right, wrong, indifferent? I don't know.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, you know, so if it's a state regulation, are they taking into account that there are these enhanced
That's what I'm
systems?
saying.
And maybe with an enhanced system, should that be 50?
And they're not. And I can assure you that because of the fact that it's the same requirement for the last 15
The
years.
health department hasn't changed their setback standards based on the new technology, which is recognized in the updates of the Part 75A. They do have a category of enhanced treatment units, but well, leach field size can be reduced, things like that, but the setbacks haven't changed.
I would supplement the New York State Sanitary Code provision of ballot systems.
Right.
Tony, I agree. I think, I mean, this is the fourth brand of enhanced system that I've been exposed to in the last 6 months. And it would be nice to have somebody come in with a technical and sort of, you know, put how they match up and what their benefits and side effects are.
Do you know anybody out there that we could call on? I mean, is there anybody that could give us this information? And I'm not asking for a favor. I'm asking seriously. We should.
Right. Well, in New York State, there's an organization referred to as the On-Site Training Network, and they have been the sponsors of training sessions. John, you may have participated at some point in time in some of those that could be a source of information. In how long ago was it? The Skinny Atlas Lake program was a test case for a number of different technologies. Eric Murdoch, you have seen before the board once at least, of all the variances he's should have been involved in, but he now is an engineer that sells and markets the Clara system, right? He's been before. He was the project manager for the city of Syracuse for that program, the Skinny Atlas Lake research program. That was a great study because it took different technologies and put them in real life situations. There were 19 properties around Skinny Atlas Lake, which happens to be the water supply for the city of Syracuse. That's why Eric, as the engineer for the city of Syracuse, was involved. It was an EPA funded program. That was a great learning experience for all of us to see how the technology was implemented at different properties, a real life situation, and they monitored results. They actually took samples and did monitoring, whatever, and out of that came, good, bad, and otherwise, as far as the technology and the systems involved. The technology has expanded, certainly, even since that time, different systems that are now available on a residential scale. Technology for wastewater treatment has been with us for decades and decades, but at a municipal level. Now it's down in a little black box, so to speak, that can be done more on a residential level, so that the ability to more highly treat the effluent before you put it in the ground and ask that soil to do further treatment, you're much better off. And that's why some of these properties, while they don't meet the standards, could never meet the standards, that last property is too small. There's no place on that lot that can be 100 feet, just like many of those properties on Cloverdale or Rockhurst. As you said, every month you get applications in for variances because they're existing properties. They're not going to go away. So, how do you deal with it? So I think this board has been forward thinking in understanding and accepting, to an extent, the new technology that's available, because it improves a situation that currently exists. That technology is out there that can do a better job of wastewater treatment in these lake areas, in these houses where people have perhaps more intense use now. It's not the summer cottages that got by on 2 or 3 months a year and then had 9 months to rest. And now you have larger homes. But all that is intertwined,
Yeah, so Jason, when they did the Rockhurst study, they said that Fuji systems down on Long Island were a preferred solution. Are you familiar with that technology or that those projects down there on the North Shore?
The study on Suffolk County.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a similar type thing where they selected different technologies. BUSA was another one that was used, and they implemented them into certain properties and got some real life situation as far as treatment of on an on-site system basis. So, there's going to be a meeting Wednesday at the LGA regarding Fuji Clean. But again, that's another one of several.
But that's the one.
There's Pure Flow. There's the SBR system here. There's Claris. There's Fuji Clean. There's one that Norweco.
That's the third one I was thinking of.
Norweco is an aeration-based system similar to Claris, similar to the ones that are most prevalent, I guess, are ones that introduce oxygen into the treatment train. Claris does that, Fuji Clean.
And they do both the anaerobic and the aerobic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Pure Flow is different in that the peak fiber system. Renco is another one. There's several. There's a couple on Cloverdale. There's one in pilot now, the Renco system. So the technology is out there. And I guess I would, I did the first Pure Flow system in anywhere on the lake basin was a property on Echo Bay. And the first one in Queensbury, property on Cloverdale, on Russell Harris Road. And then the first one in Lake George, the second one in Hague, first one in Dresden, that technology of the Pure Flow heat fiber system. And some of those are 15 years old now that are still plugging away. They may be still seasonal type use, but they're providing a better effluent than what would exist through the old antiquated systems that are in the ground.
I used to argue with John Salvador about that all the time. He would, yell at us that we, were constantly giving away variances. I said, but anything's better than what's there now.
Well, I think that one thing I guess I've come away from many of these meetings and requests is that if there's a variance, certainly a setback to the lake variance, you better be coming in with an enhanced treatment system. That's just makes sense.
Yeah, and we do allow those variances on a regular basis. This one is perhaps one of the more severe that we've seen. But, and I've read the Skinny Atlas reports, and even with the enhanced treatment system, they've seen some leakage go into the lake. And I'm not sure if it was the installation issue or the filtration bed issue. I'm not sure what it was. And Cayuga County, and they've done a lot of work on this. And reduction of phosphorus. One study that I read, the only thing that seemed to work to take phosphorus and alter it into an inert, less harmful form was the soil type. And there was a particular soil type that actually will alter phosphorus to inert forms. But that means that you would need to put that particular soil type underneath the bed. In those cases, you're worried about phosphorus leaching into the lake. All right. Well, I think this has been a fruitful discussion. I want to thank you, Dennis. Town boards, constantly wrestling with this and trying to make things better. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Would you introduce that to the public, please, Caroline?
This is a public hearing to consider sewage disposal variance application of Roger and Joyce Rubrick.
Okay. So, Roger and Joyce Rubrick of 33 Honeysuckle Lane had a system that we approved, and it was an ETU system, and I guess they deemed it too expensive. So they're asking for us to consider allowing them to have holding tanks. 2 holding tanks, one with a capacity of 2,000 gallons and one with a capacity of 1,500 gallons, with a total capacity of 3,500 gallons. And the placement of the holding tank would be 33 and 34 foot from a neighboring well in lieu of the required 50-foot setback at 33 Honeysuckle Lane in the town of Queensbury. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's just ironic in a way that of these 3 applications, we have one that's going from a holding tank, finding more land and putting in a system. We've got another one that doesn't have enough land and proposed enhanced technology, but maybe the holding tank is the appropriate one. And here was one that got approved as a enhanced treatment system, but the cost of it seemed to be prohibitive for the owner. So now we want the holding tank. So,
and they didn't apply for the grant money?
No, their property isn't eligible. It's an interior Assembly Point property, so it's further than 250 feet from the lake. So they weren't eligible for it.
That's right. This wasn't on the lake.
Yeah.
All right. Questions for the applicant's agent? There's a public hearing tonight. Is there anybody? I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak to the Roger and Joyce Rubrick, 33 Honeysuckle Lane, asking for installation of holding tanks and that they be 3 feet and 34 feet from a neighboring well in lieu of the required 50-foot setback? Having seen no member of the public here wishing to speak to this, I'll close the public hearing. Any further thoughts on behalf of the town board? No. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson Ferrone. Roll call vote on this, please, Caroline.
Councilperson Freer.
Yes.
Ferrone.
Yes.
Stroud.
Yes.
And Peters.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank
Sorry
you.
to take up
No, it was a very good discussion. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, one last one. As the Queensbury Board of Health, please, Caroline, introduce that to the public, 1.4.
This is a resolution granting Gary Flum an extension of time to complete wastewater system alterations on property located at 66 Rockhurst Road.
Okay. In the third whereas, it probably shouldn't say sale, it should be transfer of ownership of certain properties. 2,000 escrow deposit will be forfeited if it's not completed. And Gary Glum is having trouble getting a contractor due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He's been unable to arrange for the completion of needed alterations to his wastewater system. That is the installation of holding tanks on his property at 66 Rockhurst Road. And therefore, the applicant has requested the town board grant him additional time to complete such alterations and extend the date on which the $2,000 escrow deposit he previously deposited with the town shall be automatically forfeited to the town, and he wishes us to extend that date. So the Director of Building and Code Support has recommended that we approve this extension to June 1st of 2022. Any thoughts? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Brown, seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on 1.4, please.
Councilpersons Brown,
Yes.
Stroud,
Yes.
Medevere,
Yes.
Frere.
Yes.
All right, that's it for the Queensbury Board of Health. Is there a motion to move out of the Queensbury Board of Health? Moved by Councilman Medevere, second by Councilman Brown. All those in favor of moving out of the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? It appears to be unanimous. We're now out of the Queensbury Board of Health. All right, the next section are resolutions. We have 11 resolutions before us. I will briefly describe each one. The public will have an opportunity to speak to any of the resolutions. I'll give them that opportunity. And if they have something they wish to speak to the town board about, and it's not pertaining to the 11 resolutions before us, I will give them the opportunity at the end of the meeting to do so. So let's go through the resolutions and I'll briefly describe them and we'll go from there. So 3.1.
Resolution authorizing 2022 renewal contract for Empire Metal Blue Freedom PPO Medicare Advantage Insurance.
All right, for the 2022 Empire Metal Blue Freedom PPO Medicare Advantage with the 2022 monthly premium to be $387.89 per member, which is down 2%. That's unusual, but we'll take it. 3.2.
Resolution authorizing purchase of rugged terrain vehicle RTV for Parks and Recreation Department from Salem Farm Supply Inc. Sourcewell Contractors.
All right, the Town of Queensbury's Parks and Recreation Director and Town Recreation Commission have requested the town board approve to purchase a rugged terrain vehicle, an RTV, in order to more effectively maintain the town's extensive trail systems. And whereas Salem Farm Supply Incorporated is a participating member of Sourcewell Contracting and a director obtained a web quote of 2149-718 dated September 20th, 2021 from Salem Farm Supply for a Kubota RTV 520H for the Sourcewell contract ID number 122220-KBA, price of $10,410.13.
Just point of order, mine says residential utility vehicle instead of rugged utility vehicle on the agenda, but I'm good with it. That's why I was looking over your shoulder.
All right, 3.3.
Resolution to amend 2021 town budget.
All right, the budget of $10,000, did Barbara ever get back to you?
Yeah.
It is related to the cemetery building, their expansion.
Yeah, she wrote back.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Because George asked the question, and I haven't had a chance to get back to my email, and, okay.
Okay.
3.4,
Resolution authorizing engagement of the Chasing Companies for engineering and construction phase services associated with construction of highway storage building on Big Bay Road.
all right. We are replacing the old dilapidated trailer on Big Bay Road that services the highway department and a lot and land that we have over there. There is, we do some repairs over there for some of our trucks, and we keep sand and salt over there for that part of town. And it's time for them to get a decent building over there, a building that will store the equipment as well as give the opportunity to fix the equipment, as well as an area where personnel can reside. However, and I don't agree with the New York State law, but it is what it is. Projects for counties of our size and like us, Warren County, anything exceeding $500,000 must abide by the WICS law, which means in part that you have to bid out the subcontracting, the electrical, the HVAC, or equipment as it's sometimes called, and the plumbing. All right, so we have secured the building. The building itself is a bit over $500,000, so the WICS law applies. And then, in addition to the WICS law, the components that we have to bid out, because they will likely exceed $35,000. Otherwise, I understand that if they were $35,000 or less, we could just get 3 quotes. But in this case, they need to be bid out. So Chazen, I've asked them to put together a proposal. This proposal would solicit design bids from contractors for the above referenced highway garage building, the one I spoke to about. And the cost of construction exceeded, and to comply with $500,000 and to comply with WICS law, we need to have them go through the design drawings, detail what needs to be done internally for electrical and for plumbing and for equipment, which is like the HVAC unit and so forth. So they said, okay, well, we can do that. And they listed the scope of services, and that they will evaluate and they will follow through on testing, make sure that the job was done right and so forth, for a total of 19, where is it?
$19,415.
$19,415. Usually I highlight those, in this case I did. 3.5.
Resolution authorizing hiring of David Fuller Jr. as full-time mechanic for Town Highway Department.
Okay, there's a vacancy. It's a full-time mechanic position vacancy. And the highway superintendent posted the availability for the position, reviewed resumes, and has made a hiring recommendation to us, the town board, to hire David Fuller Jr. And if this town board approves, the David Fuller Jr. still will be subject to the passing of the pre-employment physicals and so forth. 3.6.
Resolution authorizing Community Development Department to submit proposed change to Indian Ridge Plan Unit Development to Queensbury Planning Board and declaring intent to seek secret lead agency status.
All right, Richard Sporle has bought a property on a tax sale from the county. Taxes weren't paid on this. It was a parcel of approximately 1 acre that was targeted because Indian Ridge is a PUD and was targeted to be some kind of a commercial use. He bought the property, and he is asking the town board to amend the PUD agreement to consider making it a residential use. And so what this resolution does or says is it's directing the Community Development Department to refer the proposed change to the Planning Board for their review, report, and recommendation, and declare the town board's intent to seek lead agency status for seeker review of the proposed change to the PUD, and authorize town supervisor to execute any necessary documents to complete the above if the town board approves this, and to direct the Community Development Department to notify any seeker-involved agencies of the board's intent to serve as lead agency. So if this is adopted, then the staff will complete the seeker environmental assessment form, Part A. A planning board review, report, and recommendation to the town board should be forthcoming. And upon reviewing of the planning board's recommendation, consideration of the town board resolution, set a public hearing. And we'll have a public hearing, a seeker review, and consideration of the resolution addressing seeker findings and adoption of a local law to effect the change. So the basic change in the seeker agreement is to change a permitted use designation from commercial services to single-family residential, and change the allowed number of 75 to 77. And that is, even though it's a single lot, it's 1 acre, and the requirement of the PUD is that the lots have to be 0.4 acres. So in theory, this could be further subdivided into 2 lots. So that's one reason why Stu made it 77 instead of 75. Okay. So that's 3.6. 3.7.
Resolution authorizing acceptance of funds from Town Cemetery Commission toward purchase of fountain and fountain lighting kit for cemetery department.
All right, we have this beautiful pond in our cemetery, a beautiful cemetery, Pineview Cemetery. And for aeration purposes and for aesthetic purposes, the cemetery would like to put in a fountain and a fountain lighting kit. The fountain installation will be $2,650, and the fountain lighting kit will be $450. 3.8.
Resolution authorizing waiver of 30-day notification required by New York State Liquor Authority in connection with Adirondack Acts, LLC.
Now this surprised me. Adirondack Acts already has a liquor license. Am I the only one that
I did a double take on that too. I got
throwing axes? And give me another beer, will ya?
With consuming alcohol. Yes.
I actually went to one in Rochester. It was called Axe and Ales. Axe and Ales. It was a lot of fun, actually.
All right. In any event, they're changing their location, and they would like us to waive the 30-day notification required by New York State Liquor Authority in an effort to expedite the permit for a change in location to licensed premises. So this is a whereas town board wishes to authorize the town clerk to notify New York State that the town board has waived 30-day notification before Adirondack Acts LLC's permit to change its location of its license permit is issued. If the town board approves the result. 3.9.
Resolution authorizing agreement between Town of Queensbury and Warren County for granting of easements, bridge replacement over Halfway Brook project.
All right, well, we went over this very thoroughly. They wish to have an easement. They're going to be changing the culvert under Bay Road, the culvert that Halfway Brook runs through under Bay Road. They're changing it, modernizing it, making it more resistance to the higher flows we're starting to see and so forth. It's all good. Now, to access that, we're going to have to supply an easement for it. And I just wanted to make sure, so I met over there the other day with them, that our landscaping and our posts for our banners will not be disturbed. They're going to remove the guardrail, and they're going to go in and access that. The one thing they have to do is they're going to take down that little pine tree that we use for a Christmas tree, holiday tree. and and they're gonna give us another 15-foot tree. This is taller than 15, but 15, I guess, is the only thing that's practical in terms of replanting. And they'll put it in a location. Chuck would like to see it a little bit west of that location. So we've gone through this thoroughly, and this resolution is saying that, we're approving to give me the authority to go ahead and prove what easements are necessary.
John, when you were over there, how are they gonna redirect the brook when they put the conduit in? Or do they?
Well, they're not putting conduit in. They're putting,
It's gonna be the whole concrete, instead of three things, it's the whole thing is gonna be a flow through.
Okay.
Yeah, and, they're gonna close that road for 6 weeks next summer.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, I attended the engineering thing for that, with Kevin Ajos 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's gonna be much better, but to John's point.
So over 6 weeks, they'll pull out these three and put the one in.
and they are gonna close Bay Road.
Yeah, Bay Road will be
We
closed.
have Glenwood
Yeah, Glenwood.
and Country Club Road, we have Meadowbrook, we have fortunately ways to get around it. It's not like it's gonna be.
Yeah, their other option was to close it one way for a year. But the solution that made the most sense was to close it totally for 6 weeks.
Definitely works 6 weeks versus a year.
Yeah. 310,
Resolution mandating use of mask in certain circumstances.
okay. Well, as we know, COVID seems to be growing worse, especially in Warren County by the day. I think it was Saturday or Sunday, there were 38 new cases. 38. All right, I think that in all due diligence on behalf of the town board, and I know that you have talked to me about it, so I drew up a proposal. As right now, wearing a mask is voluntary. So what I'm suggesting is the town board, would you support requiring masks to be worn while employees in a public setting and not at their workstation? When there is more than one person in a town vehicle. If you're not vaccinated, the mask must be worn at all times. And if you are in a situation where social distances cannot be maintained, you need to be wearing a mask. And this is, now I put it out there as I wish you to follow this, and believe it or not, most people are following it. But however, this resolution would mandate it for the rest of the month of October only. Let's see how this thing changes. I mean, in November, you can talk to me, I'll talk to you. We'll see how it's going. But if you approve that, that's just going to make wearing masks mandatory. 311 is introduced, huh?
Resolution approving audit of bills warrant 10/05/2021.
Yes, thank you. With a run date of September 30th, 2021, and a payment date of October 5th, 2021, totaling $526,606.21. And those are the resolutions before us tonight. Any town board discussions before I open it to the public?
Yeah, I have a question about 3.6 for council. Is this something that the town is required to do at the request of an owner to change a PUD?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I don't think we need to go through this. I pretty much am not in favor of it. And seems like a lot of work for the town when I don't see any compelling reason, and there was a lot of feedback that they didn't think that we should change this PUD.
I haven't heard any feedback. I don't see that ever becoming a commercial use.
Okay. I asked the question that I wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
But there was feedback that, I'll go back and look at my emails, but I know there was feedback saying this was a bad idea.
Well, I thought about that too, Harrison, when there are these developments and these projects where they come in with these plans like for a walking trail around, and all of a sudden the project finishes and it's, we decided not to put that in. And it always seems like there's a change at the end that they said they were going to do X and X does not get done.
Right.
Well, keep in mind too that this resolution is not asking you to.
I know. That's why I was asking whether we needed to do it, but if.
Well, this is just sending it to the planning board for their thoughts.
Okay.
And to ask for lead agency.
Okay.
So we'll have a public hearing. We'll be doing seeker review, and the public, you know, who knows? Maybe after we hear the public, we'll change your minds about the suitability of it, one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts on any of the other resolutions?
Did you want to pull that one for roll call?
No, I wanted to have that discussion though, just to be sure.
Well, it's worthwhile discussion.
Okay, I'll vote for it.
Let's go to the planning board, so hopefully they'll take over.
Yeah, right now, they'll have to convince me to support it,
Right.
but I'll look at the planning board's recommendation and public hearing. I just think it's a lot of work for somebody who's trying to do something that wasn't intended in the PUD.
I agree.
Okay.
John, on resolution 310, you said something about this would be just for the month of October, or are you just saying that we'll just review this on a month-to-month basis, the mask?
Well, what you're approving, I think, the way I asked Pam to write it up, was for October.
Oh, I didn't see that in here. That's why I was asking. I was trying to see
Maybe it didn't get written in.
But there's not a time limitation.
All right, so we'll look at it on a month-to-month basis. The way it's written, I'm fine with that. Until we change it, that's the way it is.
Okay.
I was originally thinking for the month of October, but it didn't get that way, and I can live with it the way it is.
Okay.
No, that's a good point. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Public, wish to speak to any of the 11 resolutions before the town board tonight?
I don't
See
think
no
I've ever seen
member
this.
of the public expressing an interest in discussing or sharing their thoughts about any of the 11 resolutions before us tonight. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolutions 3.1 through 3.11. Moved by Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on those 11 resolutions, please.
Councilperson Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any correspondence?
I do not have any.
Privilege of the floor. Talk to the town board about any town topic. All right, seeing no member of the public interested in doing that, we'll move on to town board discussions. George, anything?
Just trying to keep the issue of the discussions you and I have been having with the 3 towns EMS squads. That those are still continuing. I know Peter from EMR was still trying to schedule or have that meeting with West Glens Falls, I think. It may have occurred. I don't know. I haven't heard any follow-up on that. But, I know, Tony, I talked about this last week. Here we have a board meeting 2 weeks in a row. So he mentioned that, we don't have a lot of control over what the EMS squads do, and that's correct. They're individual companies that we contract with. But I think that, in a normal business transaction, the business usually sets the price of what their services cost, and then they ask for that price. Here it's more of a negotiating, if you would, between the town and the EMS squads. But, they're having some financial issues in regards to staffing. I know Bay is having some issues in regards to equipment. And again, I think these are discussions we need to keep on top of the table and see if we can work through them. And as we're in the process of budget, that we're mindful of that as we continue to talk about the numbers.
You see the news today, we're not alone.
Oh, yeah, no, I realize that.
EMS issues all over New York State.
Yeah. And they run along the same lines as what the hospitals are going through right now as well.
Yeah.
So the hospitals are shortage of nurses, there's shortage of clinical people, and the squads are having the same situation.
Yeah.
Not a good place to be.
No, it's not. Boy, I'll tell you, if I was a young person looking for a job, I joined the healthcare or first responders.
Yeah.
There's gonna be plenty of jobs.
Nursing, it's, it's a good career, but that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, George. Harrison?
Yeah, I mentioned to John that you both talked about EMS last week, and my concern was that in the budget we had a slight decline in our EMS budget, but that was only because of workman's comp.
Workman's comp,
and
yeah.
that we really did give them a 5% upper. So I was glad that I figured that out. I mentioned earlier that I got at least one person who was interested in having the town boards be broadcast on YouTube. And we talked a little bit about that. We'll have to figure out whether that impacts Book TV or what our options are. No urgency on my part to do that. The state keeps moving around their rules in terms of, but with a rainy night like this, you can see why we would probably have more people on remotely participating than we do have in person. And then Wednesday morning, we have a Climate Smart Community meeting. I'm going to try to get Kathy and you and me to get a photo and get a press release on our award of the Bronze Climate Smart Community thing from the state. It was handled a little weird a couple weeks ago, but we'll try to get that done Wednesday. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Harrison. Tony?
I know you're going to talk about the brush pickup.
Yeah, but feel free to do it.
All right, so I'll do this because I want to make a point about it. The highway department is doing their fall brush pickup. It's important to note a few things. It is a leaf bag pickup. It's not brush, twigs and stuff like that. The highway department, I don't know how to even say this. We've had some issues with this in the past that people don't get their stuff out and then they call back and they say, you didn't get to my house, and it's not really the case. It's just that people aren't following the rules, if you will. And I hate to use the word rules, but it is. It's these poor guys are doing everything they can and kind of squeezing this in to everything else they do. And so I'm going to be the one to say, please be kind. If you want to follow this and take advantage of it, meaning take advantage of the service, not take advantage of it, please follow the dates and don't call us saying that we missed your house, because in one instance I found out that after the fact, a resident threw in their neighbor saying, he just put that stuff out there this weekend, and they called me complaining to me that the highway department didn't pick up. And so that's why I'm going to mention that. So leaves, pine needles, grass clippings must be placed in biodegradable paper bags. Only leaves, pine needles, and grass clippings. No stones, rocks, and again, no brush for the fall pickup. That'll be in the spring. No bag can weigh more than 50 pounds. If you have any questions, you can call 518-761-8221 between the hours of 7 and 3. So the dates are wards 1 and 2. Bags must be out by October 31st and will be picked up within the week. For Ward 4, so we're not going in order, bags must be out by November 7th, will be picked up within a week. And then Ward 3, bags must be out by November 14th, and will be picked up within 2 weeks. There is a note that states these dates must be adhered to 100% as the scheduling does not allow us to backtrack to any location. I, for one, can attest to that. Again, do bag leaves, pine needles, grass clippings, biodegradable paper bags, leave bags close to the roadside but not in the street. Do place materials at the roadside on the weekend before your scheduled pickup, and you can always visit our website, queensbury.net. Do not mix topsoil, sod, trash, rocks, or heavy materials with the leaves, grass, or pine needles. If bags are over 50 pounds, they will not get picked up. They will not get picked up. Do not use any bags other than biodegradable bags Others will not be picked up. This includes plastic bags. Do not place bags out in the elements any earlier than 1 week before scheduled pickup, as they will possibly disintegrate and will not be able to be picked up. Do not place any yard waste generated by a commercial venture, landscapers, lawn care companies, etc. And do not place animals in waste bags. I did not read that one prior to this. I was not ready for that. Okay.
Can I just make note on that, Tony?
Please do.
You mentioned that we're going out of order, and I wish I could remember everyone who writes me an email, but someone wrote to me and said that, why is it always that Ward 3 is first, and I have to rush to have my bags out there? So whoever that was, you'll notice that Ward 3 is last.
Well, good job. You did a great job. They do rotate, except for...
That's what David said, yeah.
Ward 1 is always last to be picked up in the spring because Ward 1 is your seasonals, like Glen Lake, Sunnyside, and Lake George. So they give them more time to do their yards. So that's the only reason Ward 1 is always last in the spring. Something that happens to me on more than one occasion, I don't know why, but I get phone calls from people. Are you timing me?
Sorry, no.
And so they leave messages and callbacks, but they don't leave phone numbers. And it's really difficult to try to figure out who's calling you and tracking them down. So I'm just going to remind people, please, 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 if you're calling us for any town issues, leave your phone number and do not say, call me back at this number. Because where I live, and cell service is pretty scarce, I may not see that you called. And so I don't have your phone number, and therefore I cannot call you back. So I apologize. And after a while, I just give up trying to find these people. So I don't know what else to say about it, but please just leave your phone numbers. I'm begging you. Huge shout out to Bay Ridge Fire and Bay Ridge EMS, who put on the most spectacular weekend memorial event for my friend and neighbor, Kevin Giambroni, who passed away last week or 2 weeks ago. I'll tell you what, if you were fortunate enough to attend these, it was 2 days, and the most touching thing I think I've ever been through. These guys were amazing. So they had the flag flying on Bay Road, and a lot of people were commenting on that. We had a procession up to the firehouse on Friday night, and then Saturday they put together just the nicest picnic. So I have to thank them for that. You brought up the holiday tree. We haven't replaced our tree up front. Is that something that we can do?
Probably not this year, but the Christmas event, we're negotiating to have it at SUNY Adirondack. It allowed for more queuing. We did not realize when we held it for the first time in the manner that we did as a drive-through, that it would be as popular as it was. And there was cars queuing up all the way down Bay. So we're working with SUNY Adirondack to utilize the campus and allow a lot more queuing. We would send them down Haviland Road and have them queue up the SUNY Road in front of the science buildings and perhaps out to Bay Road. And have somebody directing traffic, Warren County Sheriff's Officer directing traffic. So we're working on a different program.
Okay.
But we will have plenty of decorative lights on our shrubbery.
No, don't worry about that, but I was so disappointed to see we lost that tree. And when you mentioned the one down on the corner, it's too bad we couldn't take that one out and move it up here, but.
We looked at that.
I'm sure you did.
Basically,
it's too,
it's too.
But, I don't know, maybe at some point we can do a tree dedication to somebody or some folks or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck Rice over the last couple of years has talked about redesigning that front and maybe doing just a one-way in at the second drive-through so that people don't come out there and you're by the turn and people come speeding around the corner and you get caught in the middle pulling out of the driveway. And then our clerk would love to have a drive-through window. Don't know if that's possible, but we got to get some numbers on that maybe someday to see if we could do that as well. So we'd have the traffic come around through the property and then out on Evelyn.
Maybe we should do those bank things with the little canisters.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, the vacuum system.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I have tonight, John. Thank you very
All
much.
right, well, thank you, Tony.
Yep.
Okay, and Harrison, I thought you'd bring this up. Kathy Bizzoni, who, we contract her services to help us along with some of the environmental uses, especially those related to climate
Energy and climate smart.
Yes, communities. And so one of the things that we're looking at, which will give us $5,000 if you get 10 people in Queensbury to sign up for it, is part of the Clean Energy Community Program, and it's a community solar campaign. And if you sign up for one of several companies, Common Energy, NextAmp, Power Market, Solstice, and I have gotten a mail from NextAmp sign up, $100 sign up bonus plus $25 referral bonus. But anyhow, we are assured that you'll save at least 10% from your National Grid bill.
Up to 10%.
Save 10% each month for that electricity. Okay. It will promote solar farms, and it's 100% renewable electricity. So we need to get 10 Queensbury people signed up. Common Energy, NextAmp, Power Market, Solstice. I think she has another company that she's working with. And I guess we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's exactly what the meeting is about. Sorry about that.
All right, from Denise DeResta. October is a month we coordinate getting items donated to support You Are Not Alone Troop Support Group at the Queensbury VFW Post 6196. This group sends care packages overseas every month to soldiers who are deployed from our local area. Our department, the Veterans Department at the county, has coordinated supporting them during the holiday season for the past 9 years. The past has shown our success, but only because of your generosity. Her office, Warren County Veterans Office, will start collecting items through November 5th. So it's Warren County Veterans Services. That's some other day. All right. Last thing, I'll skip and do some of the others. The Queensbury Seniors, what a great group. If you're not a member and you're 55 or older, I would strongly suggest you get a member. There is a group of people that really know how to have fun. We had a celebration the other day. It was like a speakeasy. It was a 1920s thing. And they had me bring my 1929 Model A Ford down and park it front. And people did all kinds of photo opportunities. And that's great. I love that. So it was to honor the Golden Seniors. And I gave a little speech. It was a fun speech. But those seniors who have turned 90 or more were given recognition. But Betty Spadaro is 103. And so she came up and gave a great speech. 103 years old. Lives in Glen Lake. She's not too far from the dockside, and her house is just immaculate. Anyhow, she's an amazing person, Betty. And so Betty and all the ones at 90 or plus, we had a great time right here in the activity center. And that's Queensbury seniors. They know how to have a good time. I enjoyed being with them. All right, and that's it for me. Anything else for good of the order?
I'm good.
All right, motion. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Councilperson Freer, seconded by Councilperson Ferrell. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. We're now adjourned.
The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls is proud to partner with Central Insurance Companies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.